I'm a 34-year-old guy from Ohio. Logistics worker, owns his house, tips well even when he's broke, has a dog named Biscuit who is genuinely the best part of his life. I'm telling you this so you understand I'm not some dramatic person. I don't post about my feelings. I fix things, I show up, I move on. This is the first time I've ever put any of this in writing, and I'm only doing it because apparently my face went viral on Instagram last month and people keep asking what actually happened. So here's what actually happened. 3 years ago, I got engaged to a woman I'd been with since we were both 28. We had a house, a plan, a wedding date circled on a calendar in our kitchen. I was happy in a way that feels normal and solid, not exciting, just real. Then my kidneys started failing. It didn't come out of nowhere dramatically. It crept. Fatigue I blamed on long shifts. Ankles swelling that I ignored. By the time I collapsed at work and landed in the ER, I was already at stage for chronic kidney disease. The doctor sat me down in a small room and told me I'd need dialysis 3 times a week, 4 hours a session, until we figured out a transplant situation or something changed. I called my fiancée from that hospital bed. Her first question was not, "Are you okay?" It was, "Will this affect the wedding planning?" I told myself she was stressed. That's what you do when you love someone, and the alternative is too painful to look at directly. You make excuses. You file things away. Dialysis does things to your body that nobody in a waiting room pamphlet prepares you for. The fluid retention alone is brutal. My body couldn't filter properly, so it held on to everything. I gained 38 pounds in 4 months, most of it water weight and inflammation. I was exhausted in a way that sleep didn't fix. My skin looked gray. I stopped recognizing myself in mirrors, and not in some poetic way. I mean, I literally looked like a different person. My fiancé had thoughts about this. It started small. A comment here. A look there. You should probably watch what you're eating. Then, you know the wedding photos are going to last forever, right? I let those go because I was focused on not dying, which felt like a reasonable priority at the time. But about 6 months before the wedding date, she sat me down at our kitchen table, folded her hands in front of her like she was conducting a performance review. "I need to talk to you about your weight," she said. "Okay," I said carefully. "You've let yourself go." No softening. Just flat. "I know you've been sick, but other people deal with health stuff and don't end up looking like this. I need you to lose at least 40 pounds before the wedding. I'm not walking down the aisle next to someone who doesn't take care of himself." I sat with that for a second. I thought about the dialysis machine I was hooked up to 3 times a week. The medications lined up on our bathroom counter. The mornings I had to sit on the shower floor because standing was too much. "I'm on dialysis," I said quietly. "I know that. But you could try harder. You eat too much. You don't exercise. My nephrologist told me not to do high-intensity exercise because of my blood pressure." She waved her hand. "I'm not asking you to run a marathon. I'm asking you to make an effort. Because honestly, if you can't even do that, I have to wonder if I'm making a mistake. I could find someone who actually takes care of himself." There it was. Clean and practiced. I looked at her across that kitchen table, and something inside me went very still. Not broken. Just still. "I'll work on my health," I said. I meant it. Just not in the way she was expecting. The next 2 weeks I started paying attention in a way I hadn't before. Because that comment had unlocked something, some part of my brain that started noticing what I'd been too sick and too in love to register clearly. I found out what she'd been saying about me. One of her bridesmaids texted me by accident, apologizing for what my fiancé had said at brunch. I asked what specifically. The bridesmaid hesitated, then sent me a screenshot of a group chat. My fiancé had told 6 women that she was embarrassed to be seen with me, that she was reconsidering everything, that I'd turned into someone she didn't sign up for. I read that 3 times. I thought about every dialysis session I'd sat through alone because hospitals made her anxious. I thought about how she'd stopped sleeping on my side of the bed because I moved around too much. I thought about the Christmas party where she'd laughed a little too loud when someone made a comment about me looking tired. I didn't explode. I didn't call her out on the screenshot. I just quietly started getting my affairs in order. I called my doctor and had an honest conversation about what I could and couldn't do physically. He gave me a modified plan within the limits of what my kidneys could handle. Low-impact movement, dietary adjustments, stress management. He also referred me to a therapist who specialized in chronic illness, which ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. I called my dad and told him everything. He was quiet for a long moment. "Son," he said, "a woman who watches you fight to stay alive and makes it about her wedding photos is not someone you want to build a life with." I already knew that. I just needed to hear it out loud. 3 weeks after the kitchen table conversation, I sat her down in the same spot. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told her. She actually smiled. She thought I was going to tell her I'd hired a meal prep service. "I've decided to focus on my health completely. You are right that it should be my priority." I slid her engagement ring across the table. "Which is why I'm ending the engagement. I need to remove everything from my life that's making my recovery harder." She stared at the ring, then at me, then back at the ring. "You're being serious right now?" "Yes." What followed was not pretty, but I won't give it more space than it deserves. There were tears, then volume, then a door slamming hard enough that Biscuit hid under the bed for an hour. I let her have all of it. I sat there and let it happen and didn't move from my decision. She did not take the ending graciously, and she did not move on quietly. I want to be honest about that part because it's important to what comes later. Within 48 hours, she'd called my mother, sobbing, telling her she'd stood by me through everything, and I'd abandoned her out of nowhere. My mother called me directly, asked for my side. I told her everything, including the screenshot. My mother stopped returning my ex-fiancé's calls after that conversation. Then she escalated. She showed up at my workplace 3 times over the next few weeks. The first time she stood in the lobby crying loudly enough that my coworkers could hear, telling the receptionist I'd had some kind of breakdown from the medication, and she needed to talk sense into me. HR asked her to leave. The second time she brought her mother, who lectured me in the parking lot for 15 minutes about how I was throwing away a good woman. The third time she left a 4-page handwritten letter on my car windshield. Single-spaced. The word selfish appeared 17 times. I counted. She also worked our shared social circle quietly. Mutual friends started sending me just checking in texts that felt pointed, asking if I was doing okay mentally if I'd talked to anyone about my decision. She'd been telling people I'd had some kind of psychological breakdown from my illness and wasn't thinking clearly. That the real me would never have done this. It was a neat trick. It reframed my decision as a symptom, made me the unstable one. Then she tried something that genuinely floored me. We had a joint savings account we'd been building for the wedding and a potential house down payment. About $14,000. She went to the bank while I was at a dialysis session and attempted to withdraw the entire balance. The bank flagged it because it was a joint account with a dual signature requirement for withdrawals over $5,000, which we'd set up when we opened it. Standard for that account type. They called me to verify before processing anything. I called the bank back immediately, explained the situation, and had a lawyer friend draft a letter formally noting the disputed status of the joint account pending resolution. She didn't get the money. Let that land for a second. While I was physically hooked up to a machine cleaning my blood, she was at the bank trying to take $14,000. I sent her one message after that. "Please don't contact me again outside of resolving the joint account. I'll have a lawyer reach out." She didn't respond to me. She posted a vague Instagram caption that same afternoon about being abandoned by the person you sacrificed everything for and collected 300 sympathetic comments from people who had no idea what had actually happened. I let it go. I had bigger things to focus on. Recovery is not a montage. I want to say that clearly because I think people expect some kind of dramatic transformation arc with a great soundtrack. What I got was grinding and incremental and mostly boring. My nephrologist adjusted my treatment. I worked with a dietitian who actually understood kidney disease and didn't just hand me a generic calorie sheet. I walked every day, starting at 15 minutes and building slowly. I went to therapy every other week. I slept. I stopped apologizing for being sick. The weight came off as my body healed. as inflammation went down, as fluid retention normalized with better treatment, and, honestly, with a significant reduction in daily stress. My doctor actually said that to me directly, that removing major stressors from my environment was medically significant. Over 10 months, I lost 47 pounds. More than she'd demanded. None of it starved off out of shame, all of it a side effect of genuinely getting healthier. My friend took a photo of me at a family barbecue about 11 months after the engagement ended. I was laughing at something my nephew had said, mid-motion baseball cap, holding a plate of food. He posted it to Instagram and tagged me. He wrote, "My guy fought his way back. Proud of him." I wasn't even really active on Instagram. I didn't think much of it. By the next morning, the post had 40,000 likes. My friend called me before I was fully awake. "Bro, you went viral." Someone who knew us had reposted it with context about the dialysis and the engagement and the recovery. A health and wellness account with a large following picked it up from there. The caption they wrote was actually accurate, which surprised me. It talked about kidney disease, illness-related weight gain, recovering on your own terms. The comments were thousands deep with dialysis patients, people with chronic illness, people who'd been made to feel ashamed for what their bodies did while fighting to survive. I stayed out of the public side of it entirely. I posted one thing on my own small account during that whole period. A photo of the outside of my dialysis center. I wrote, "This place kept me alive. I used to be ashamed that I needed it. I'm not anymore." That one got more attention than I expected to. The dialysis center reposted it. Then my ex-fiancée found the viral post. She left a comment, under her real name, in front of hundreds of thousands of people. She wrote that she was glad he was doing well, but that people didn't know the full story, and that she had stood by him through the hardest part before he'd chosen to walk away. She ended it with, "I hope he finds the happiness he was looking for." It was calculated, designed to look gracious while planting doubt. People who didn't know the real story would read it and wonder if she had a point. Except the bridesmaid, who texted me the screenshot by accident about a year earlier, saw the comment and replied to it publicly. She posted the screenshot. The full group chat screenshot. My ex-fiancée calling me an embarrassment, saying she was reconsidering the engagement, complaining about my appearance while I was on dialysis. Posted it directly underneath that gracious, carefully worded public comment. My ex-fiancée deleted her comment within an hour. But screenshots are forever and people had already saved it. The bridesmaid's reply got shared on its own. Morning shows, podcast accounts, relationship content pages picked it up. All anonymous, no real names used anywhere, but the shape of the story was clear. About 2 months after the viral moment, I got an Instagram message from an account I didn't recognize. Secondary account, no posts, no followers. It was her. She said she'd done a lot of thinking. That she'd made mistakes in how she handled things. That watching the response to my story had made her understand how it looked. That she missed me. She asked if we could talk. I read it twice. I thought about the kitchen table, about the bank, about the parking lot with her mother, about the comment she deleted when it backfired. Then I screenshotted the message, forwarded it to my lawyer asking if it affected the joint account resolution in any way. It didn't, and blocked the account. Not out of anger. I want to be clear about that. I blocked it because I had nothing to say, and I'd learned in therapy that nothing to say is a complete answer. 3 weeks after that, the joint account was officially closed through the standard process. She received her half, I received mine. No further contact required. That was the last thing that connected us legally or financially. A journalist who covers health topics reached out after the viral moment and asked if I'd be willing to talk about dialysis stigma and illness-related weight changes. I said yes. We spoke for 2 hours on the record. I talked about the shame patients feel, the pressure to perform wellness while your body is in crisis, the isolation of navigating serious illness inside a relationship that can't hold the weight of it. The article ran in a publication with real reach. My ex-fiancé's employer apparently saw it. A mutual connection told me she'd had a conversation with her supervisor related to the identified comment she'd left on the viral post and the screenshot that had followed it publicly. Nothing professionally consequential happened to her. But she had to sit in that conversation and explain herself. Her choices had visibility and weight for a moment. Given everything, I'll take it. My kidney function has stabilized enough that my nephrologist reduced dialysis to twice weekly, and we're monitoring closely. He used the phrase cautiously optimistic at my last appointment. I know better than to put too much weight on that with this disease, but I'll take cautiously optimistic. I have Biscuit. I have my dad, who calls every Sunday. I have the bridesmaid, who posted that screenshot, who has somehow become one of my actual close friends, which is a strange gift from a terrible situation. I have a therapist I see monthly now, down from biweekly. The 47 pounds don't define the story. What I keep coming back to is that sentence I said at the kitchen table. I'll work on my health. She heard it as surrender. I meant it as a door closing. When someone tells you that you aren't worth loving in the condition you're in, the most powerful thing you can do is quietly disagree and then go prove it to yourself.
Not to them.
To yourself. That's it. That's the whole thing. If you read this entire post while I walked you through dialysis, a breakup, and accidentally going viral, you might as well hit subscribe. At this point, you're basically my support group anyway.